Looking
We
good,
had
brother.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I got a couple of tours to do at the studio later, right? Actually, immediately after this tour. So I'm pretty
Nice.
excited about that.
Sweet.
So yeah. Um oh, I turned my sound off. Okay, turn it back. So yeah, I'm excited that you're here with me today. And ever since I've been on Clubhouse, I've been a big fan of yours, and I like your style, and I like your presentation and what you do. And so I thought, you know what? Let me have Christopher, the amazing Christopher, on my podcast, and we can chop it up a little bit. So we finally got a chance to do it. So thank you for pulling some time aside to be here with me today.
Oh, hell no, dude. I'm honored. I appreciate it. I love it. And yeah, I see lots of connections and lots of collaborations. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'd like to do like a owl open house at my studio where everybody can come down and meet each other. We can put the faces with the names, with the voices, and do a little networking thing. And we can even have some calls up on the screen. I can tap into folks's phones. Like I have my phone set up here in the network here, so I put it on available just so that, as we're talking about the owl, people can kind of see what we're talking about. So
Oh, awesome.
I can switch to that. I made it available. Nobody's probably going to call me, but I thought if somebody did in the middle of the show, that would be cool. We both could kind of give them some advice.
Hell
Uh,
yeah. That would be
but
great.
yeah, what I have here in my setup is I got a six, I got an 8-channel mixer. So that's my iPad right there. And I got my Facebook PodOwwll page up just so you could see what that looks like.
Damn,
And
check you out.
and then this is the 48-hour film challenge, which I do the red carpet for. And I'm looking to get a lot of filmmakers on. So I'm actually running the 48-hour loop in the background just to kind of show what we can do here on the Pod Brothers show. So if you have a video or a film, like if you're a film director or an actor, writer, I can go ahead and pop your reel on and we can talk about it. And I can, I can go to your website and go to your social media pages right in the middle of the show, and I can just switch back and forth to whatever we need with my trusty handy dandy Roland video
Nice.
switcher.
So you don't have the Rode podcaster or the what's the other thing that somebody just told me about the other day? It's a switch. It's like got 15 or 30. I don't need it. But my buddy just bought it where you can like program sounds. You can do hotkeys like to switch cameras. I'm like, for me, I can do a keystroke, or I'm not so worried about like, if I use my mouse during my show or something like that. But I like that. I'm actually going to think about moving more into that space, be able to do a little bit more, take my stuff to the next level. So I appreciate you showing me that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I've always enjoyed the Roland products. So yeah, it's we're always trying to level up, and as I get clients that come into my podcast studio and they go, oh, can you do this and can you do that, and want to cut to my website and my social media, and so I just go out and I find the devices, the equipment that allows me to be able to do that, and then I just do it.
Nice. No, you sound clean and clear. I love it.
Yeah,
I've got a Yamaha mixer, and then I've just got my Shure SM7B.
You and we got the same
cloud lifter. I got the cloud shifter or lifter, whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, I got the 7B2. I saw yours, so I pulled mine out so we could be 7B brothers.
There you go. You know what's funny is I have a Shure SM58, like the standard, $100 or whatever, and I started off doing my show with that. And I was like, well, because this thing's like $300, $400 or whatever the hell it was. Mm-hmm. And so I did a bunch of research, and I was like looking at sound tests and like, is it really that much better? And for me, I had a bunch of gift cards that people always give me, Amazon gift cards. So I was like, you know what? I just want it because it looks fucking professional. It looks kick ass. It's like, and so I really didn't hear any vocal difference between the SM58 and this one very much, but I like the professional aspect of it.
Yeah. I got the Sennheiser. I got the Pioneer. I got. I use this. This is $100 mic too. This is the what is this? Oh, this is the Dynamic, and it's okay, man. It's like it gets the job done.
Nice. And I'm about to set up a secondary recording setup so that my son and I can start doing the Jackson and Daddy show.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm going to set up my SM58 on here, and so he can come in here and we can be on the camera, and he loves doing it. He's 5 years old. So we're starting to get to the point where I think we can have a conversation for enough time where people would sit and listen to it, maybe 15 minutes, 10 minutes or something like that. But I just want to get him comfortable in front of the camera. And He comes in here during my show. Sometimes he just grabs a microphone. He's like, "Hi, everybody." I'm like, okay, buddy, you got to, distance and everything.
You can't start him too young, man. Tiger Woods was on the Mike Douglas show. He was 3 years old hitting the ball on stage, and people were amazed that somebody that small, that young, could swing a club that effective. So it's never too early to get these gene pools into like just creative stuff. So good on you.
Now I'm amazed. I see some people send me these music videos where these kids are playing drums, like they're playing Disturbed, or they're playing. I saw one today, Led Zeppelin, and I was like, my kid can't even hold a guitar right, and these guys are play guitar better than me. And I'm like, okay, I feel like I failed as a parent. I should have, I've had guitars and drums around him, and he kind of got into it, but I see these people, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I've been a lazy dad. My kid doesn't even know sports yet. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a bad guy, but it's all good.
Yeah, no,
he's got lots of love. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that's all that matters. And and they'll gravitate to certain things too every once in a while. So, it's never too late.
Nah, it's all part of the plan. Right now, he's in trouble because he accidentally purposely threw a ball at a kid yesterday and hurt his nose, busted his, not didn't break it, but caused it to bleed, and then apparently laughed. And I was like, oh my God, my kid does not grow up around violence. I'm not violent. We've never spanked him. And I'm like, we got the report the other day that he wasn't listening. We're like, okay, I had him apologize to the teacher yesterday, figure everything's good. You're going to be a good boy. My wife picks him up yesterday, and she texts me immediately. She goes, yeah, he threw a ball at one of his friends and laughed while he cried. And I'm like, I've got a fucking psychopath for a son. We've adopted my son. We've adopted him from birth. So you don't know about the genes. And I mean, I know about the birth father and the mother a little bit, but I was like, okay, am I going to raise a sociopath? It's like, you got to have compassion, dude. You know that I love people. And I told him yesterday, I said, I do nothing but make people feel good. And you're here hurting people? Come on, let's go. Yeah. So I'm praying today he gets a good report. So
yeah, no, he's in good hands with you. So I'm sure he'll be fine. You got the lessons and the wisdom and the words that will, sink in, and he'll be fine. You guys will be all right.
Thank you. He's a beautiful soul.
Speaking of the elephant in the room and some violence, I think we might have to take a few minutes just to address what happened at the Oscars.
I wanted to get your opinion on that. I mean, for being a comedian, being in the industry, some of the brief conversations we've had before, it destroyed me. I wasn't going to watch the damn thing. We'll talk about it on the show. Yeah.
Yeah. It broke my heart on several platforms. Number one, for Black A-list male role models, 50 and older. Now think about it. Everybody will give a pass on youngsters and adolescents and in your 20s, even in your 30s. But when you're in your 50s and you're that privileged and you are A-listers and you are in a position to set an example and send a message on how we are, what kind of people we are, and you do that, it sets Black male professionals back 200 years, in my opinion. Number one, it's a comedian, and the Oscars have been roasted by comedians for 80 something years. So when you're privileged and famous and wealthy and you get an award, you're the X ring in the bullseye, which is the bullseye. So the rest of us are on the outside, and you should be able to celebrate your rise to number one with the rest of us having fun at your success. And that's basically what it is. We're celebrating your success through our humor, and we can do that by taking shots at you in fun. Now, the thing that happened with Chris, Will, and Jada, here's my take on it from all points of view.
Are we doing the podcast right now, or is this like before the podcast? Just so I know.
Yeah, no, we're doing a podcast. We're
rolling. Okay,
we're rolling. Yeah. So, number one, whether Jada is struggling with alopecia, and she says she is, and I believe that, or not, she still can pull off a bald head. She's a beautiful, sexy woman, and a bald head is like amazing on her. Yep. So that's not an insult to take a shot at it, no matter what the deal is. Number one, because she's an A-list. She's an A-lister. Now, don't forget, she boycotted the Oscars in 2016 because there wasn't enough Black people and people of color in the Oscars. They weren't members, they weren't nominated, they weren't getting awards. So she boycotted. Okay, it's America. You can protest what you want. Okay. So now fast forward to tape, her husband is up to win an Oscar and she's in the front row. So all eyes are on her and Will because those of us who've seen the movie, or even if we didn't see the movie, we're kind of pulling for Will to win it because we can see that the Oscars have evolved into this place where all of those complaints for inclusive or to participate has not fallen on deaf ears. So you've got a Black orchestra leader, you got 2 Black females, 1 a lesbian that are hosting the show. You got Black actors and directors nominated for things. You got a Black actor positioned to win. So those complaints and those protests didn't fall on deaf ears. The Oscars actually did hear those and did something about it. Were proactive in including people of color. A Puerto Rican woman won Best Supportive with the West Side Story. She's a lesbian. So, I mean, you know, pick the boxes that there were complaints, they all were checked.
Right.
And then you had Will Smith kind of collapse it all. I lost a lot of respect for Will because number one, you don't like show an example with violence. That's the last thing you do. You don't kill an ant with a hammer. A professional comedian came at you with a joke that I thought was a good joke. And on Clubhouse, people were just like, oh, it's a horrible joke. It was this and that. And I'll explain that in a second. But it was a good joke. And it was a throwaway joke. It wasn't a joke that was written down and the Oscars had to approve it. He just went up, saw it, did it, and, you know, threw it away. And it was funny. And Will laughed. Everybody laughed. They saw it. So the key to it is nobody saw G.I. Jane. So they didn't get the reference of the positive spin on the joke.
Yeah, that she's like built like, you know, she's tough and ready to go.
Yeah, for those of us who've seen G.I. Jane, it is a movie about a woman who overcomes an enormous amount of obstacles to be an officer in the military. And she's going against 100% male testosterone and male misogyny, and she overcomes and she wins. So to be in a joke where you're referenced as another female who overcome copious amounts of obstacles and wins, to me is a good joke. Like that would be like someone referring to me when I just get out of jail to Nelson Mandela, you know, first day out. Hey, right. Glad you're out. I can't wait to see, Nelson Mandela 2. That would be a like a positive spin compliment on a joke because you're comparing me to Nelson Mandela. And nobody got that. Nobody really saw the joke and went deep enough to see the comparison was a positive one based on another female character's struggle and success. So in my opinion, if Jada had just stood up and saluted Chris, everyone would have given her a standing ovation. She would have been the sweetheart of the entire Oscars, and they would have been memeing that like, forever, because that would show that she's got a sense of humor. She gets the joke. It's a positive spin. It's nothing negative, and it's nothing like that. Right. But that didn't happen. And she really just kind of gave Will a look, because Will laughed at the joke. When he saw that look, that's when he reacted to her reaction and went up there. And I think the thing that really split the atom was when the female comedian, the Black female comedian before that, she made a reference to anybody who didn't get a COVID test. I'll call out your name, please come on stage. And then she made a joke about taking them backstage and doing a COVID test with her tongue in their mouth. Now, if that was reversed, if it was a male and calling single females up, that would have been creepy. They would have got a whole lot of letters and that would have not been good. But when it's flipped, it's okay for a female to do it with single guys. Right. And then in that joke, she called up Will Smith. And then she goes, oh, wait a minute. I got to get permission from Jada in order for Will to come up. And, that was like an awkward laugh. People didn't get it. And they didn't get it because they don't know, some of them don't know the personal history that Jada and Will was in an open marriage, and they had, things going on. And Jada was like, yeah, you can do this with him or her or whatever. She was kind of the one that gave Will permission. So the people who knew Will and Jada were kind of in on an inside joke. They got that and they knew what that meant. But the rest of us who don't know that, we saw that as like, oh, wow, that's kind of emasculating to Will, to not, get permission to go make out with a chick backstage. So to me, I think that was the joke that kind of split the atom, and it made Will kind of look a little bit emasculated. And then when, the Jada thing came around with the G.I. Jane, I think Jada didn't like that joke either. I don't know if you got a chance to see her face.
Oh yeah.
She snarled at that joke. And so Chris is the second hit. So that was the look that was like, you got to stop this now. We don't want to be the punching bag of the whole Oscars, but you're sitting in the front row and you're positioned to win the highest honor of the Oscars. So you're supposed to be able to take any and everything that anybody brings on stage, because you're going to win something amazing that nobody's ever going to be able to do that. Just to, rare people will win that award. So you need to kind of sit in grace and have grace under fire. And neither of them showcased grace under fire to me.
No, it was crazy.
That was kind of the heartbreaking thing. So the whole thing all the way around is, was very, very heartbreaking for me. So what's your take on it?
Oh, dude, you're preaching to the choir. I just got done reading Will's book a couple of months ago. I bought it when it first came out. I knew that Mark Manson was working with him as his ghostwriter, as his co-writer, and I love Mark Manson stuff. I'm getting chills already. So when I read his book, I really developed, I already loved Will Smith anyway. And I saw his YouTube series where he was talking about, I'm in the worst shape of my life. He does that 6-part series. I don't know if you saw that on YouTube, where he kind of goes through his body transformation, and he's, trying to lose weight, and he's being real. He's talking about writing the book. He's talking about having his family in there and being, he goes, I'm learning this lesson of being honest. I'm tired of chasing people. I just want to be me. And reading that book, I felt such a deep connection to him that I was like, literally like, man, I want to sit in a room with Dave Grohl and Will Smith and just have conversations about life. I think that we would all just get along amazing. We're all similar people. And when I got done with that book, I was like, wow, man, I'm going to make it an intention to meet Will. I have so much respect for him. And then to know that he was up for an Oscar, thinking, wow, he's at the pinnacle of his career. He just wrote this book. Everything's going great. And then literally, I normally don't watch the Oscars, but my wife flipped it on. I missed the part what you were talking about, because I think we came on just maybe a little bit before this, and I really wasn't paying that much attention to it. And then I saw Chris Rock, and I love Chris Rock. And I've been, we've had conversations offline a little bit about comedians and the cancel culture and everything else, what's going on, and seeing what's going on in the comedy world and how people are stepping down from it. I'm watching Craig Shoemaker. He lives here in Southern California as well. I'm seeing some of his posts. I've had some private conversations with him. And for me, when I saw that, I said, that's a bit. That's a bit. They're doing a bit. They're friends. When I watched it the first time, and even when I watched it on replay a few times, I was like, okay, that's a bit. They're trying to get more, controversy for the Oscars and everything, because I just saw something before. I didn't read the headline, but it was something about, the Oscars viewership was way down. So I'm like, okay, this is a bit. And my wife's like, I don't think that was a bit. I'm like, it was. And I actually came upstairs, went on my computer, and I was like trying to see what it was. And all of a sudden it was like, because the Oscars, started doing the delay, I was like, okay, they're in on it too. It's a little bit of a bit. They're going to like, oh, we're going to pause for this, and it's going to be a laugh or something like that. But then I was just so mortified. The thing that mortified me even worse was that they didn't exit him out of the venue. And I'm thinking, okay, if anybody else in the world went up and smacked anybody, they would have been arrested. They would have been kicked out of the place. Yeah. And then
the police would have been waiting for them.
Yeah. And I read that later, that he was asked to leave and he didn't leave. But the thing that bothered me the most, honestly, Kimbro, is the fact that he got up there and he did that acceptance speech, and he's like, and I'm being called from God to be a vessel of love. And I'm like, I would have expected you to get up there and say that, sans the smacking of the comedian, because your wife gave you the death stare. You just ruined it for so many people, so many, young Black lives, and just people in general, just to see that, like, okay, now we're condoning the fact that if you don't like a joke, you can walk up and smack somebody. Conor McGregor's in an audience one time, and somebody comes out and says something. What is he going to do? Beat the shit out of him? It's like, come on. And then to get up there and do all the tears and everything. And I believed him, but it was just like, wow, you just took the pinnacle. And I love what Denzel Washington said. I love what he said. I don't know where he said it. I don't know if he said it before this or after this, but he said, you know, when you're at your top, that's when you got to be careful. I can't remember how exactly the quote, but I loved it. I got to check out more Denzel stuff.
That's when the demon comes for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just like, dude, you did all of this stuff. And then to have his, I think it was Jaden came out and said, that's how we do it. And I'm like, so you guys are just all ghetto now? It's just, you're supposed to be setting the precedent of what, you know, young people can be looking up to and what's acceptable. And I just feel so bad for Will to be in that moment to I can't imagine what he's going through psychologically. But for me, I was hoping that based on the person that I thought he was, that he would come out and do a live and say, hey guys, this is, you know, he has a great opportunity right now. Whatever he does, he and Chris Rock can get together and say, hey, this is unacceptable. Here's what we can do for the inner city youth with his power and his wealth and everything else. He could turn this around. The sooner he does it, the better for him. But, you know, to have that, you know, on his record for the rest of his life, I feel for him. But at the same time, the thing I love about it, Kimbro, is the fact that a lot of us are talking about it. And now we're saying, okay, what are the boundaries? What's acceptable? You know, what are the positions? Because I've heard everything, you know, the backstory about how he's, you know, kind of joked with them over the years. But to your point, yeah, I mean, it's a comedian. It's a comedian. Okay. He could have said, I'll talk to you in a minute after I win the Oscars, and got up there and said, ladies and gentlemen, and just use that moment. He could have been such a star. But now with this, you know, I think it was a fake apology. I think it was an apology from somebody else. You know, it just makes me frustrated that, you know, what with everything that humanity is going on through right now, that this is yet another thing that's like, okay, you know, and like you were saying, you know, from the African-American community, you know, the black on black, you know, what if it was a white person? What if it was an Asian? You know, what would that have said? All the different parameters, like, okay, it's acceptable because they knew each other and they're in the industry. It just blows my mind. So I hope some really good stuff comes out of this.
Nothing about any of it is acceptable. You know, the only win is Chris's response was literally taking Grace under fire.
Yep.
And if the Oscars are in on a ridiculous, cheap skit like that, I'll never watch them again.
Yeah.
Because this is, as a filmmaker, actor, writer, director, the Oscars is supposed to represent the pinnacle of success and recognition of your work by your peers. So that's a pretty big honor to have everyone who's in your industry who knows what's good vote for you to win. And then to mar it with some cheap fake fight skit with two A-list black guys.
Yeah.
You know, like if that part of it was real, I'll never watch the Oscars again. And I'm in the film industry. I'll take my luck with doing whatever I do, make my films. I don't ever have to win an award in anything for anything that I do. I'm fine. I'm okay with that. And the fact that it actually happened as it is, the fact that the Oscars didn't step in and say, we apologize for this. This is not part of our show. This is not what we represent. This is not what we condone. And we're going to go to a commercial break and sort it out.
That's a great,
like that would maintain the respect and the prestige that I have for the Oscars. The biggest black eye for me in all this is the Oscars, because they did not step up. They cut it, bleeped it out, and then went back. And then Chris had to like come back. Now he's a professional comedian, and we get put in deep holes all the time, and we got to come back. Sometimes a comedian before you will cook the room, sometimes walk the room. You got to come back and bring who's left back up to a laugh track. So he's professional, and he gets that. He's been in those situations thousands of times, I'm sure. So if anybody can rebound from that on live TV, it's Chris Rock. And he did an amazing job doing it because he's a comedian and he's professional, and he's long in the tooth doing it. But the fact that the Oscars did not step in and say, sorry, this is not our show. We are an A-list recognition of the best in the creative of making films, and this is not what we represent. And it doesn't matter white or black at that point. That wouldn't have mattered. It's just to preserve the integrity of the Oscars by having somebody come out and say, look, this is not how we get down. You
Right.
know, how we get down is a recognition of amazing talent and character. And I mean, let's say every award show, you know, how would you feel if um, Gandhi won the Nobel Peace Prize and made a joke at Mother Teresa, and she came up and smacked him? Like, what you guys are two of the most humble, anti-violent people in the world, you know, like what's going on? But the Nobel Peace would be like, hey, wait a minute, we give peace awards. We don't
Right.
we don't we're not the initiators of peace between two peace inventors. We recognize peace, and this, we're going to have to give this award to somebody else because this clearly doesn't represent what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know
So
what I mean?
true. Yeah.
So, you know, I lost a lot of respect for the Oscars on that one. A lot of
Big time.
respect.
What do you think in your mind would be a suitable, I don't like the word punishment, but what would you think would be a suitable opportunity for them to kind of balance this out with Will? What do you think? Because I've heard people say he shouldn't get his Oscar, but I'm like, well, he did the work for that. He should get that, in my opinion. But at the same time, maybe be banned, or what are some of your thoughts that would make this right in your mind?
Um, you know, a lot goes into getting an Oscar than just your talent. A lot goes into getting any award than just your talent. So you 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 can send a message. You can set a precedence. If you want to set a precedence that the Oscars only looks at your talent, and the people who are voting only looks at like your talent and what you've, you know, your scope of work, and not who you are and your character and the message that you send,
I agree.
then set the precedence. Just tell us so we all know that. So when someone comes up and knocks somebody out on stage, just like, you know what, that's not part of the measurement. That's not part of the barometer of what the Oscars are about. You can do whatever you want personally, and we'll still give you an Oscar because you're a good actor. But if it's about character and integrity and about all the acceptance speeches are praising everybody who's involved with how amazing they are and what their character is, and they would give their shirt off their back. Not to mention the fact that when people win, they use that platform to advocate a cause for abortion or puppies or women's or Black Lives Matter or LGBTQ. Like when they win it for them. This isn't for me. This isn't for them. So in my opinion, your character is kind of part of the evaluation of the award.
I
So
agree.
if that's part of the barometer, then anybody who doesn't have character should not get that award. And if you showcase that, then, you know, the Oscars should have suspended it and let's talk about this. And then listen to what everybody else is saying on social media, talk amongst themselves, maybe have the Academy take another vote. Like, are we going to send a message that our winner of the greatest award we represent for 80 years, we're okay with this behavior?
That's true.
And if they go, you know what, we're going to suspend the award, we're going to, every Academy member will have a say. We're going to send out a ballot and we're going to say, okay, check this box if you think his talent deserves it, but check this box if you think that behavior is non becoming of an Oscar winner. And if you do, then we'll give it to him. But if you don't, we won't. And then let that set it. Now, when that comes back, we know everybody in the Academy character is pretty fucked up and shitty.
Yeah.
And now when we watch it with a whole different eye, because you set the precedent of what you guys are and what you accept and who you think is a winner on camera and who you think is a winner off camera. And then we will, we'll watch you or not. Chances are you'll lose everybody because you look up to these people and you look up to their character. And to how many times have you heard people go, oh man, you know what? I met this celebrity and it was like so cool. Like talk to me, and it was like this and that. And it was like a regular person. It was like was cool. It's like talk to my uncle or my aunt,
Yeah.
And then you hear somebody's like, oh man, dude, I was like, this dude was a shithead. Like I'll never watch any of this shit again.
Yep. I've had
You
both.
know,
I've had both personally. Yeah.
and it's like that sets a precedence, and that will determine whether you really admire and respect that person as a human being and their character despite their accomplishments. And that's my take on that.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, and for me too, it's the fact that I hold space and compassion for everybody, that we all screw up. I mean, he did it on a magnitude that's like, he always goes above and beyond. I mean, you read his book and everything else, you find out, the caliber of person that he was in order to do what he did, and a lot of it was for egoic reasons. For me, it's what you do after, right? When you have a reaction like that, you have a moral obligation, a responsibility to the community, to the public at large, to make that right. And so for me, the longer I don't hear from them, the longer I don't see what's going on, the more I have concern, especially that I think it was Jaden came out and said, that's how we do it. It's like, no, that's not how we do it. This is ridiculous. You're sending the absolute wrong message. So with your authority, your wealth, your power, your influence, you have an opportunity to make this right, and so much more. And so for me, that's what I want to see. To your point, I agree. If the whole moral character and everything else is going to come into play, I see that being an opportunity. The cynical part of my brain goes, I wonder how many of the academy people, the voting academy, are in the pockets of movie industry executives and stuff like that. You just never know all the stuff that goes on. I was involved with the music industry for a while, and that was just blew my mind. The amount of corruption and bullshit that was in there was like, okay, this is all smoke and mirrors. This isn't really about the music and performance. This is all about other things, and it really destroyed my perspective about the music industry. So I think that they have an opportunity. I think that both of them together could really make this an opportunity for the youth and for the people of America to bring us together and to say, okay, listen, we need to understand this, and potentially discuss about the perspectives of what's considered comedy in those particular forums. If that's a situation, let's make sure that maybe we're not making fun of people and we're keeping the comedy to something different. But I'm a firm believer that if you're a comedian, you should be allowed to say anything, the freedom of speech and everything, and to know it's a joke. I mean, sometimes we know that there's truth in those jokes, but to your point as well, I was one of those people that took that like, yeah, she's a badass. I've always dug Jada. I mean, she's got a heavy metal band. I mean, I dig the crap out of her. I think, however they do their life, they do their life, as long as they're good people in the community and they make the world a better place for me. But yeah, just seeing that, just like, because I had so much respect. I was like, man, I just love Will Smith. I read his book. I was telling everybody to read it, and to have this at the height of his career is just devastating for him and what he's been through, for his family, for his friends and everything. But the opportunity now to make it better is what I'm hoping and praying for.
And like you said, the longer it takes, the more you kind of lose. Like it's just like every day, what little respect you have is just evaporating. And for some people, it's completely evaporated, and he'll never get them back, no matter what he does. He could be running out of a burning building with 2 babies and a grandma on his back, and people will still be like, he's the shithead who smacked Chris Rock. But thank you for saving babies and grandma. Appreciate that. But you're still a shithead, and that's the
Yeah.
truth of it. I lost a lot of respect for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And being a man of color in the industry, trying to make it, a lot of decisions that have been made to pass on me is because of some of that kind of behavior. And it's just like, look, I'm not one of them brothers, but I'm 6'1", 255, muscles with attitude, so it's like, how do I know he's not going to be a Will Smith type? It's like, we have to deal with that like every day.
Yeah.
And it just was really kind of a shame that happened. And I don't think there's no reversing it for a lot of people. Like, a lot of people are set on how people are, and they're looking for examples of why to trust, admire, and respect, or why to disrespect, be offensive, and throw away. And it's this constant battle. And with people of color, that's exacerbated because the doors and the opportunities are extremely limited anyway. So the ones that are open, have thick filters on what they think your character is about. And then to have 2 A-list 50-year-old guys, I'm not blaming Chris because he's a comedian. The joke was funny. It made a reference to another positive woman, but he's involved. He's in the mix. He's in all the memes getting slapped. And it's like, it's unfortunate for him to have that. he did take Grace under fire. He's a professional comedian. He did his job, and he played it off like a champ. So you can't really blame him in this.
Mhm.
But it's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
It is. Well, we'll see how it plays out. But I'm happy for Chris. I heard his ticket sales went up, and that he made a slight reference to it in his first show, and so of course he's going to capitalize on it. And but it'll be. I pray for Will, and that this doesn't destroy him, because in seeing some of the stuff and seeing his authenticity, his transparency during those YouTube videos, I'm like, he's a real dude. He's a real dude. And then to get up there, the acceptance speech was just like, wow, I'm like, this is what you're saying. And then really the people, he didn't really thank the people that were involved in the film. It was more about me, and it was like,
yeah,
what? But that's my thing, is I want to see what comes out of this. And I just pray that positivity and love and light comes out of this. And then we'll see what the Academy says. I know they've been opened an investigation, and I read something yesterday that said that they had asked him to leave, then he refused. I'm like, okay, well, what would happen if anybody else was that situation? It's just
right.
It'll be interesting. Like you said, what's the precedent that's going to be set? What is it that they're going to condone and allow? And hopefully it's a strong message. I would hate to see him lose it, but at the same time, that would definitely send a message to everybody else. Like, hey, watch your P's and Q's. This is a serious situation that you cannot physically strike another person and expect to get away with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think they should suspend it and let the Academy send the message.
Yeah.
They need to be like, okay, we're going to suspend it. We're not taking it right away. We're just going to suspend it. And then we're going to take a vote, a harder look at what kind of behavior is Oscar worthy, and we accept it, and what kind of behavior is not. And if they decide that behavior is cool for an Oscar winner, then okay, the industry is a lot more toxic than I knew.
Right.
And we can live with that, because I'm living with the toxicity in the industry as it's and in comedy, like you have in music. Toxicity in comedy is just as much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you want stage time, you want to get booked, okay, take this bag to Miami. While you're down there, I'll book you at some comedy clubs that I have a string of. And it's like, I didn't get into this to mule drugs or money. It's like, I'm funny. Like, I want to be, like movie, film, TV. And it's like, if this is what I got to do to get there, I'll pass on this road. But there's other roads. And it's a shame, but that toxicity is there, and we kind of all sign up for it if we want to do something in it. And then we have to figure out how to navigate through it with as less manure on our Nikes as we can.
I love it. Yeah, I was already in a down mood anyway, because of the death of Taylor Hawkins, the drummer for Foo Fighters. I was already devastated from that.
Wow.
And so my energy was already messed up. And then all of a sudden that happened. I was like, whoa, what's going on in the universe today? Which just makes me more inclined to want to be, the light and be the bridge for the people that are on different sides of whatever arguments that are going on in the world. I tend to bring myself as a bridge to sit there and say, okay, let me seek first to understand what's going on from everybody else, and then try to formulate my opinions and be able to help be that bridge for those individuals, because nobody's right or wrong. It's a fact that we just have all different perspectives based on the situations we've gone through in our life that have helped us form our beliefs, which therefore create our feelings and therefore create our actions. So I'm constantly in the middle trying to be the bridge in those situations. And sometimes it's absolutely exhausting, but it's my intention in the world to make the world a better place each and every day that I'm alive. So I set the example for my son, and like, this is how we do it. And that's what I really hope comes out of all of this.
Well, you have critical thinking, and you're intelligent, and you're smart, and you combine that with compassion. So you allow people to exercise their expression, their freedom of speech, their freedom of whatever. And then whatever happens from that, you can evaluate and see if it was a good thing or a bad thing, but you're not going to crucify them for it, because, it's a double-edged sword. I don't think the forefathers thought that far ahead when they said freedom of speech. They should have put a few more keynotes in there that says, you have the freedom of speech. However, footnote, if you say something that could be disrespectful or offensive, you might find out you may lose some teeth, or there's a consequence, or have critical thinking, or study on what the real consequences of freedom of speech can be, then take all the classes that have anything to do with the First Amendment. That way, when you exercise your freedom of speech, you're not going to get slapped.
Yeah. Way to put a bow on it, Kimbro. I love it.
I don't think they thought that far ahead. Freedom of
No.
speech, say what you want.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, when he first got up and start walking up, I thought he was gonna grab the mic and play the dozens.
Mhm.
And when we were a kid, we played the dozens. We talked about each other's mamas.
Right.
And back and forth, back and forth. Your mama's so fat, your mama's so ugly, your mama bald headed, your daddy's this, your mama's that. And it was all jokes and fun. And the more creative you could get with those insults, the more laughs you got from the other kids. And it was a fun kind of, endearment thing. And I thought he was going to go on stage, grab the mic, and play the dozens with his wife, say something against his wife, and then Chris will say something again against Jada, and they go back and forth, and it becomes this thing, and it's a big laugh off, and they hug, and it's kind of like, this is how we do it in the hood, playing the dozens, but instead of your mama, it's your wife jokes, and everybody laughs it off. But I did not expect that. I did not expect him to slap him. And a lot of attorneys on Clubhouse are saying that it's still out. He still possibly could have charges brought against him for doing that. He's not out of the park for having that. And that's one thing. And the other big conversation was you got to protect your woman. You can't, this. And I go, you guys need to read the law in self-defense and what that actually means. Like if Chris had thrown the mic at her or charged down to do some physical harm, then Will can defend her by diffusing the threat. But the second that the threat is diffused, that's when self-defense ends. If you diffuse the threat and then start kicking his ass, that's assault. That's when you go to jail for assault because you took it past self-defense into assault. And I was trying to explain that to a lot of these women and men on some of these Clubhouse rooms who were saying like they would do this and I would do that and I would kick his ass and blah blah blah, and this is why I'm like, look, you guys, all you would be in jail.
Yeah, that's not the way you do it. That's actually a great question. That's one of the things that was brought to me by one of my female friends. She said, this day and age, Jada's a established enough woman herself. She could have handled the situation. So what does that say for, my man's got to go do it, or women can't defend themselves against people that are making snide remarks about them. That was that whole conversation. Was that brought up in Clubhouse as well?
It was, and that's why I said, women always talking about, we want to be equal and we want to have the same, and we want to be respected as having the same power and the same thing as men do. Well, here's an example where a woman can showcase that intellectually by, standing up and saluting, pointing at him, maybe giving him an eye to let him know that, okay, that joke was something that wasn't my favorite joke, but I get the reference, I get the joke. And thanks for, celebrating my husband's success and, and my success. And women have opportunities to be equal all the time. They just don't take them. And because they're hypersensitive in being, I guess, the second class gender, and instead of seeing those opportunities and take them kind of like how a man would, they overcompensate and they go overboard, and sometimes they'll exaggerate what really needs to be done. I say all the time, don't kill an ant with a hammer. It's just have grace under fire, use your critical thinking, be smart, listen to what the person is saying, because it could be a positive spin on the joke. The joke is on you, but you want it to be on you because the reference is made from a positive thing. So you do a joke and the reference is something negative, or a person that's negative, or a serial killer, or a racist, or somebody who's an idiot, then you might take a little more offense, but you'll still laugh at it because you see that it's a joke.
Right.
And my privilege and my wealth and my popularity cancels out anything you could say about me. If I can take thousands of mama jokes when I'm an 8th grader, there's nothing you could say about me, my mama, my wife, my kids, me, Like, I'm just gonna just like laugh, and then I'm gonna come back and be like, well, your wife is this, your mama's that,
Right.
and people would have been like, okay, that was a funny little banter, urban banter, two black guys from the hood,
Sure.
and just kind of laughed it off. So
Yeah. And that was the
yeah, I
other thing.
think
That was the other thing afterwards is that I guess he posted or she posted, you can't take anybody from Philly or somewhere to anywhere nice or something like that. I can't
yeah,
remember
a
who
lot of
did
that
that.
dialogue has been going on,
I was
and it's
like,
justified. I mean, this is the
okay.
Oscars, and these are two black men at the top of the game, and you, it's like you can't take them to the Oscars. That's why I'm so like pissed about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's comedy, but it's truth. There's a whole lot of truth to that statement, because yeah, it happens. I mean, in my own parties and picnics and shows, it's like, oh no, you don't want to invite Skeeks, man, because Skeeks, that dude, you can't take him out, man. He don't know how to act. It's like, and why you don't invite me to place? Because you come to places you show like we can't take you nowhere. So you're passing out, you're drunk, you're hitting on married women, you're fighting,
Yeah.
you're heckling the other comics, and then they're looking at me. When you have comics on stage, look at me because my boys is heckling them. I mean, come on, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I can't. You're supposed to be here to support me, support the comics, level up the show. You don't want heckling everybody.
Right.
So, yeah,
Craziness.
craziness for sure.
Well,
So, how's your life on Clubhouse? Let's turn the page and let's talk about that. Unless you had something that you wanted to also talk about. I kind of brought that up, but you might have had some topics that you wanted to bring to the table. So
oh no, I'll follow yearly. No, I'm in Clubhouse. It's so funny because I know Clubhouse gets a bad rap lately, because there was a lot of people that were, deceiving people and whatnot. For me, it was so funny. It was December of 2020, obviously when COVID was going on. And I got a couple of text messages from people saying, oh, you need to be on this app. You need to be on this app. And I was like, I'm already on too many apps. I'm not going to do this. And then it was like a Sunday night. I literally got a text message from two different people, two different speakers that I hadn't talked to in a while. And they're both of them within an hour said, Chris, you need to be on this app. I'm like, all right, whatever. And so I go download it and everything. They invited me into a room and I'm like, okay, I can pick this up real quick. And honestly, Kimbro, at that time, we had the murder of George Floyd. We had the presidential elections. We had the cancel culture. We had so many different things going on that my faith in humanity at that point was really in the toilet. And I truly believe this, that 80% of the people around this spinning blue marble in space are great people. I think they're a little fucked up, depending on what their perspective, what their childhood conditioning was. And that's super important. But when I got on Clubhouse, I was blown away at the heart and the family and the unity of what it is that we were creating. We were in rooms for 2, 3, 4 hours pouring into people.
mm-hmm.
People were being vulnerable and sharing stuff. And and people were all surprised. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe you guys have this safe space and we can do this. And we just kept going until people were filled. And we just kept doing that night after night after night. And black, white, straight, gay, tall, short, Republican, Democrat, every walk of life, and nobody was saying, what's your stance on abortion? What's your stance on vaccinations? What's your stance on Donald Trump? Nobody. We were all, and I get chills as it was like, that's what the world needs to do. Yeah. So for me in Clubhouse right now, there's a growing family that we have going on. And we were just talking about this. More and more people are being attracted to this family. So we do a Monday night room on spirituality. We do a Wednesday room at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on trauma, your trauma to triumph. We have a bunch of people in there. And then I do a men's group room on Wednesday nights, which actually women come to. In all of these different rooms, we're getting more and more people. And they're just like, wow, I needed this so bad. And we're having people sharing like stuff they've never shared publicly before and, developing these relationships and these connections. So for me, I absolutely love it. I don't get clients out of it. I get my heart filled out of it, knowing that those people are walking away and they're going to tell, because I always tell the people, I say, here's what you can do. You just heard thousands and thousands of dollars worth of advice. If you went to a seminar or whatever, you would pay thousands of dollars for this. It's easy. On replay. And I asked people, I said, what you can do for us and us assembling these amazing moderators is go out and have the conversations with your friends, go talk about vulnerability, tell people vulnerability is a strength, show men that they can actually be masculine, yet be in touch with their feminine side and have vulnerability against the stereotypes. We've gone deep on stereotypes and all sorts of things. That's one thing we always set in our rooms, is it's a safe space, and people from all walks of life we're seeing, like, especially probably in the last 6 weeks to probably 3 or 4 months, we've seen people who came in the room first and were scared shitless to say anything. And now they're owning their power. They're entering classes and they're becoming coaches, and they're really escalating and elevating their life. And they're just like, thank you guys for doing this for us. So for me, it's truly incredible. I love it. What about you? What's been your experience?
Same thing at the beginning. My anniversary date was September 17th. So I've been in it a little over a year. And same thing, went into rooms and was sharing with people and opening up, and all the vulnerability and the honesty and the realness and the safety of it. I was blown away. And people were like, your stories and your take on things, I could listen to you for hours. You should open up some rooms. And I opened up a couple rooms and had some people come in, and it was awesome. I wasn't able to maintain it because I just had so many other things going on with my film projects and my podcast stuff. But I would pop in and out of these rooms, and I would pop up and do a room every once in a while. And it was profound. I was blown away, and it was almost addictive. There was one day I think I was on Clubhouse for 20 hours.
Whoa.
Because I just could not let go of the people and the conversations.
Yeah.
And I just, I'd take a nap, leave it on, and I'd come up, wake up and be like, okay, back in the conversation. And it was an eye-opening, life-changing event for me. And anytime you can connect with real people and listen to where they're coming from, and that's the thing, you get a chance to hear what people are saying between the words.
Amen.
And that is what was the biggest hook in Clubhouse, because if someone's not feeling you and they're a little bit condescending, you can hear it in their voice. You can hear the confrontation. You can hear the pushback, and you can go deeper down those rabbit holes in getting your viewpoint across, if you care just to spend the time in that. Because a lot of people are listening to what you're saying, and they also hear the pushback, the resistance, the condescension, the hidden agenda. And when you go into the back chat and people are like, dude, your point spot dead on, great share, I never knew that was a great take, while people are going at you 100%, and in the back chat they're all like praising you and like, that's, you're right, 100%, that's amazing. That's another thing that you don't get, is real people who you see on the thing, who you've heard their voice telling you in the back channels that they concur with what you're saying and your viewpoint. And to have that self-validation, or not self-validation, but to have the community validation that's organic and real, in the industry, in your industry, my industry, at the Oscars, I'm sure everybody was blowing smoke up everybody's ass. They're dressed A, they look A, the hair is coiffed, they got all the jewelry on, all the cameras are on them, everybody's blowing smoke. But to be in a situation where, no, I'm telling you how I really feel, and this is where I'm really coming from, and what you're saying is spot dead on, that's a confidence builder. That's a feel good. It lets you know you're connected with a human being, and they heard you and you hear them. And that's one of the things that I like about Clubhouse. And I've actually been able to make money on it. I mean, people will back channel me and be like, hey, can I hire you to, coach me on this thing? Or can can you tell me about this? Or, can I hire you to come and produce my podcast? Can I hire your screens? I've had people book my screens, hire me to do podcasts, actually cast me for voiceover. Nice. So I've probably made, maybe $1,000, like knick-knacky here and there on just stuff.
Right.
So,
yeah,
it's not, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, one of the things you just touched on, something that's super important for me. And I love that you segued into that. For me, being the no excuses coach and being the guy with the hat and the bandana and everything and swearing, for me, all of my life, I've always been a people pleaser. I always adjusted my personality and who I am to serve other people for that certainty, for that validation, for that success. Like, from me being homeless at a young age and being on the streets and going through 2 suicide attempts, which fortunately I sucked at, having a gun put to my head and almost my brain's blown out. for me, all my life, trying to be for everybody else in order to have that certainty in Clubhouse, the thing I've recognized the most since I left my corporate job back in November of 2019 to do my coaching and my speaking and podcasts all full time is the fact that I've just been me. Is I've not put any pretenses on. I'm like, I'm the no excuses coach. Here I am. And the amount of connection and the amount of feedback that I get, honestly, Kimbro, I'm not out there looking for that, but I can say it I go down to my wife every time I come off a Clubhouse and I'm like, oh my God, like I have quotes that these people saying, Chris, you've changed my life and you're just being authentic and you're being real and you're flying your freak flag. And there needs to be more people like you in the world. And all my life, I've never been myself, but now I'm just being me. And people are just loving it and just connecting with me. So for me, finally in my life at 53 years old, I feel like I belong and I don't have to pretend to be anybody else I'm not. So for me, it's that connection factor and seeing and hearing the feedback and the praise and people saying, I mean, like they're giving me compliments that I have a hard time taking. Like, Chris, you brought us all together and you did all these things. I'm like, no, it's a family. Here we're doing it all together. We're showing up every single week and it's growing and people are just learning more about themselves and they're coming to me and saying, wow, thank you. Can you coach me more on this and everything? It's just been such a huge validation that it's good, that it's great to be me. And I don't have to pretend to be anybody I'm not. So it's for the first time in my life, I'm finding that. And I'm so appreciative of what that app has brought because I've met so many beautiful, beautiful people.
That's awesome. And that's how I found the Owl was on that app. Paul Vato, I was in a room with him and he was listening to me.
Oop, is that Owl?
No, that's a regular call.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, let's answer it right live on the air.
Hey, let me call you right back. I'm about to finish up a podcast I'm on. I'll call you right back. All right, that's my director of my documentary film. We're going to meet later this afternoon.
Oh, nice.
She directed my comedy roast tonight, so she probably has a few questions. But yeah, everything that you're saying, man, I concur with 100%. And so we have like a minute left. So you want to tell us a little bit about your show and where we can find you on social media?
Absolutely. No, Kimbro, this has been awesome. I can't wait to do it more and have you on my show. The best place to get a hold of me is at ChristopherRausch.com, RAUSCH, or noexcusescoach.com. My shows, I do 2 shows a week. One of them is called Raw and Unscripted with Christopher Rausch. I do that Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time live. And then I have another show called The Unfiltered Experience that I do Friday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can find all about them going to ChristopherRausch.com. The website right now is being updated because I've had it attempted to be hacked 2,000 times a day since the whole Russian-Ukraine thing. My Facebook was hacked and I'm in Facebook jail. So the best place to really find all those shows, you can find them all on YouTube. It's youtube.com/Christopher Rausch. And check them out. Yeah, that's the best place to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure chopping it up with you today, man. And thank you for coming on. I can't wait to come on your show. We're going to have some fun. And, you're in the bubble for the lifetime. People I pull into my world to be in a lifelong relationship with, I want to let them know that. And you're one of those guys. So I appreciate you. Brother. And for those of you who want to find where I am, I'm the Pod Brother. You can go to podbrother.com. You can find this show and a lot of other shows at podbrothernation.com. And this is my new podcast series called The PodOwwll. And for more information on that, go to podowwll.com. PodOwwll.com. Thanks a lot. Christopher, thank you, my brother.
Love you, man.
And I'll see you guys around the corner.
Definitely.